Today I'm going to be talking about the Anti-Imperialist League. The Anti-Imperialist League was made up of anti-imperialists during the years of 1898 to 1921 and took place in the United States. The group was formed for the main reason of stopping the annexation of the Philippines because the United States at the time was trying to take it over. The members of the group believed that America should not try and take over other countries because they had the right to govern themselves. The anti-imperialists had come together and were formed after the United States entered their war with Spain. In their victory against Spain, they acquired the land of the Philippines. However, the Philippines wanted their independence, so the two countries, United States and Philippines, went to war. This was especially cruel of the United States because the Philippines helped aid the Americans in their victory against Spain, and the U.S. repaid the Philippines by trying to take over their country. So, there was a group of Americans who thought that this was wrong of the United States, and so they formed the group Anti-Imperialist League, stating that the annexation of the Philippines was bad and that they had no right in trying to take over another country when they just helped us win a war. So, what the anti-imperialists did was they fought against imperialism and educated the people of the time about what was happening around them. They believed that imperialism went against the whole idea of democracy and the idea of the Declaration of Independence. It was just straight up unconstitutional. They did this by creating political cartoons and writing papers and spreading the word through high figures such as Mark Twain and William Jennings Bryan. Americans justified imperialistic behavior by claiming that it was their responsibility to take over the land, and they believed that the Philippines weren't able to govern themselves in a successful way. So they thought it was right of them to take it over themselves. This violates the credo of republicanism, especially the need for consent of the governed. So anti-imperialists wanted to show the people that imperialism is bad and that what we did to the Filipinos is wrong because we were taking away their land and independence. The anti-imperialist goal was to stop the annexation of the Philippines and to get the people to agree with anti-imperialism. Throughout the history of the League, its essential goal was to protest against imperialism overseas and to get as much recognition about the Anti-Imperialist League and to get power and numbers behind the campaign of imperialism is bad. They wrote letters, made cartoons, wrote in magazines, made pamphlets, and tried every way possible to get everyone to know about the Anti-Imperialist League and what they stood for. There's power in numbers, and people that support their ideas was better and had a better chance of stopping the war with the Philippines and not annexing it. Bryan was a part of their group, and he was able to get nominated as a presidential candidate, which is pretty good. They started at a low number and eventually grew to have enough to support to get Bryan nominated for president. They expanded their group over time. However, they did not get the Philippines' independence, and the United States wound up taking it, and other countries as well. As shown in the cartoon of, "Well, I hardly know what to take first," McKinley is waiting on Uncle Sam with a menu that reads Cuba steak, Puerto Rico pig, and Sandwich Islands, referring to the Philippine Islands. This is showing how McKinley is feeding the power-hungry Uncle Sam for land, and the Anti-Imperialist League failed to stop them from taking over these lands. However, one of their successes would be getting Bryan elected as candidate for president. Democracy need people to back them up, and Bryan got nominated as a candidate because people supported him. In order to get him to that point, there must have been numbers to support him, which meant people were getting educated and joining the Anti-Imperialist League, which was one of their goals, to grow, expand, and get people to become aware of what was going on around them. They successfully got numbers, and the people joined the League, and they campaigned through more magazines, and their protest was not entirely ineffective, however, as McKinley decided to withdraw volunteer groups from the front line, meaning anyone who volunteered no longer was now included in the fighting battle portion of the war. They broke up and didn't really keep going after Bryan lost his election in the nomination and failed to stop the annexation of the Philippines. They failed to spark national discussion on the wrongs of annexation. Their portrayal of American soldiers started to wave unpopularity amongst the American people. The League struggled to get their word out and gain a strong following after this. The League was looked upon as a national, futile set of people and could not save the Philippine people from devastating defeat and 30 more years of a colonial rule. Despite their several efforts, the group was unable to make an impact and fight against imperialism, ultimately disbanding. This is why they broke up. In their release of the Liberty and Tracts pamphlet portraying the Americans as in a harsh manner, their intentions were able to describe the horrors of the war, but it was received as an attack against American soldiers. This was a cast of moral blemish on America. Overall, America had no right in trying to take over a country that didn't want to be annexed. The annexation of the Philippines was based solely on the hopes of opening up a new market for American goods. To further this point, at no time should annexation be something that is achieved through murder and innocent civilians. The anti-imperialists tried using the democracy to their advantage, but democracy only works if people get involved. One of the things the anti-imperialists did well was getting a following for Bryan's nomination for candidate of president. They appealed to the people in a way that connected them with their specific lives, so it made the following of the League grow. But the anti-imperialist League should have taken more of a neutral position on the controversy of the annexation to not only further assert themselves within the community of everyday Americans, but bring light to the infringements America was committing without making any clear enemies. This would have allowed the League to generate a larger following and more effectively work towards the cease of imperialism.